Let's get into some shite. Hi, welcome to the Out of Tune podcast on this lovely Thursday. How are you doing out there? How are you having a good day? That's all that matters. If you're having a good day, I have been trying to do an interview with Mr. Mike Poole since before Christmas. We tried to do it, and then the holidays kicked in, and our personal schedules and technical difficulty, all the stuff came up, and it just seemed like it was never going to happen. And we finally did it. We finally got it in. Mike had me on his podcast earlier last year. He's got a video podcast. Should be able to find it. And he talks about it. You could look it up. We had a little bit of fun there. Talked a lot about kilts. This one, we don't talk quite as much about kilts. We talk a little bit about just, how to live. Life, general. Sometimes that's what you just get in the mood to chat about it. Anyways, that's what it's about. Hope you enjoy it. Let me know if you like the interviews. I've got a few more scheduled. I'm scheduling more, and these will be Thursday shows. Not every Thursday, but when I have an interview, I'm going to put it on Thursday. All right. So Mike Poole, and I will introduce him here in a second. And this is Mike. It's the Out of Tune podcast interview with Mr. Mike Poole. Mr. Poole, how are you?
I'm good. It's frigid cold up here, man.
Now, here's the thing. I don't really know. You're in Ohio, am I right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to give you your exact address. All right. So.
Yeah. If people want to show up, they can show up. They can find me. But Central Ohio, yeah.
I miss the snow. All my friends up in Knoxville and Nashville got snow.
They're getting hammered right now. I've got a friend in Knoxville, and she's like, she moved from Ohio down to Knoxville to get away from this, and she's pissed.
I got nothing. We got nothing in Atlanta. I actually I went out this morning and did a little bit, and I came back and I told my wife, it's like, it feels like it's spring outside.
Spring.
I mean, we don't get much of a winter.
So when was the last time you had snow?
We'll get a couple a year, just a light dusting. Yeah. We don't get much at all. I mean, even when I was living in Knoxville, it wasn't a lot. When I was a kid, we got a lot, but it's, global warming, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know. It looks, it's pretty cold.
Yeah.
It's, we were started the day at 4 above.
Oh,
natural,
wow.
Yeah.
All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to introduce you in the best way I know how, which is no way, because I don't know a whole lot about you. I know some.
Yeah,
you had me on your podcast, was it last year?
It was last year.
And that was fun. And I said, I'll return the favor, so I finally got around to it. But you've been around here for a long time. You supported Life to Kill podcast, This Epic Disaster. I think you were there when I drank a bunch of beers on I was on the last.
We did it on Zoom. Remember that during COVID?
Man.
We were on Zoom together, man.
That's correct. And that was fun. It was stupid, but it was fun. And
it was we had good times.
I haven't since we stopped doing that podcast. I've drank 5 beers. Almost no beers. So it's that podcast funded my beers, and I mean
your beer.
After that, I was like, I'll have a beer every once in a while. I just don't do as much. I drank more beer on that show.
But you think Coors Light is a beer, though, brother? We gotta fix this.
Well, I used to, but I don't anymore. That was my favorite beer, and then we started doing that podcast, and I got so many beers. And then I remember I was at a party, and I got a Coors Light, and I was like, this tastes like water. And so I haven't been able to drink them anymore. So I'm not a big fan of lots of different kinds of craft beer. This Epic Disaster introduced me to beers that I would never have tried in any other way, and that was fun. But it's a different show, so I don't.
Yeah, that's okay. We're not going to drink on it. I'm drinking my coffee.
We can. I drink more coffee on this show than anything. All right, so you're up in Ohio. You have been a podcast supporter. You supported during the Life in a Kilt and Year in a Kilt days.
Yeah, I did all the way back to the beginning.
12 years ago.
You were the first podcast I ever listened to.
Really?
That's straight up. No, that's no shit.
Was that the Life in a Kilt podcast? The first one?
I think it was even Year in a Kilt. It was like at the end of when you were doing Year in a Kilt.
2013 was when we did that.
Yeah, 2013.
I found early you in days.
like March or April of 2013. I found you.
Yeah.
And you're the one that gave me the inspiration to do my, Kilting 50 later that year. I began in November.
I don't know where podcasts are going to go, but I think everyone should do one. I mean, it seems like there's too many of them anyway, but it's fun and it's like a diary. It's like, it's really, here's the thing. When I was a kid, I used to have, they're still radio, but when I was a kid, I had a little AM FM radio and you remember the little headphones? It was just one ear.
Yeah,
it was
you just plugged it in, man.
Yeah, and I would lay in bed. I had this little transistor radio, and I'd lay in bed, and I'd put that ear thing on. And for some reason, really late at night, I guess all the other radio stations would start shutting down. And I would get stations like in Chicago. I could just barely turn the dial just a little bit. And George Carlin does a great one, but it's just like, you just go, all the way scan it. That's how I discovered jazz. Yeah. And I always felt like that I was like peeking because, there wasn't a lot of jazz in Knoxville at the time. And I felt like I was peeking into other cultures because, East Tennessee, at that time, I couldn't see a lot or hear a lot of that stuff. And so it was a way to get into a lot of that kind of stuff. So I learned so much just like gradually going through and listening to all of that kind of stuff. And now that's what's fun to me about podcasting is just you get that
into anything.
A little bit of everybody's story, and
that's what I think so because that's what encouraged me. I mean, you no doubt, and some others I'm listening to, and it's just like I just want to hear people's stories.
Yeah.
That's like when I interviewed you. I just want to hear your story, man. Not and then in some ways I get to know you, or the world gets to know you, and that gives people permission. I think what you do and podcasting gives people listening permission to tell their stories.
Right?
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into your story. Here's what I know about you.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to say some stuff probably wrong. You just correct me.
That's okay. We'll let it roll.
You used to be a cop.
Used to 20 years, man.
You were 20 years as a cop. Yeah. And then somewhere along the line, I know there's probably some other stuff. Somewhere in the line, you decided to get into the ministry. Is that right?
Yeah, 20 years doing that now.
That's 40. 40 years. you gotta figure in the college years and the high school years.
Well, college was
that's
a failed experiment the first time around.
How do you go? How do you go from copping to pastoring? I mean, what? Both of them are kind of involved in like correction and discipline or stuff, but I
sort of, yeah.
What was it? So, was it just like fed up with one, or was it a calling, or was it? What do you feel like?
So but way back in the day, and I mean you ventured down this path, and times of your life. So I felt called to ministry when I was a sophomore in high school.
Okay.
And then
I was in sixth grade when I did.
Oh, see, right. I mean, you've got the story then. Yeah. I mean. Yeah, I went to my parish pastor, and he kind of blew me off. It's like, well, go dig ditches. You know what I mean? It was kind of, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, well, screw it. So
interesting.
And then I just, life gets in it, and I ended up, becoming a cop, and it just kind of was always there, and so I knew as I was coming to the end of I loved law enforcement. I still say best job in the world, really. Yeah. And, but I knew I was going to be one of these people that I wasn't going to hang on for 40, 50 years. And I wanted to kind of, do my time and then get out. And it became, a a young officer's game.
But you do
So
it right.
then-
It's serving
Yeah.
people. That's, I mean, serve
Yeah,
and
it's serving
protect.
people.
You're-
Absolutely.
It's just, it's
And
just,
so,
in some ways, it's like being a pastor. You're serving people.
well, yeah, and I mean, part of what law enforcement did for me as far as ministry, I stood with people in the worst moments of their lives as a cop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, and you name it, and I stood with somebody in that moment. And there was something about, I mean, we talk about being sacred grounds, and whatever anybody understands sacred ground to mean, just kind of that special. And I knew those moments were something. And and so law enforcement in that aspect and ministry, I spent the morning, somebody, older gentleman who had a massive stroke the other day, and so I spent the morning with the family, and so
Yeah.
I'm standing kind of in those similar sacred places. Yeah, It's crazy. So I flipped a coin. I mean, when it come to the end of my call story, flipped a coin. We had several of us on the police department were looking at retiring and getting into going into law school and starting our own practice.
Right.
And so I went back to school, the college the first time. I got one of those letters that said, we would like you to pursue your academic endeavor at another institution of higher learning because you're no longer welcome at this one.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, well, thank you very much. And so I went back to school when I was a cop, and I got my bachelor's degree in criminology. And the school I attended has a law school with preferential admission if you get a bachelor's degree from there, and it also has a seminary attached to it. And I stood there in the parking lot, with your fancy dancy motorboard hat, whatever they call those things, and my degree in hand, and I flipped a coin. I'll either go to law school or seminary, and that's a true story.
Wow. Very cool. And so now, are you active pastoring now? Are you still doing that?
I do. I have a congregation. Yeah. About an hour away, an hour north of Columbus. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I do intentional interims. So I come into congregations.
Oh, wow. And fix them up, whip them back into shape.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do.
They've had a crappy pastor, and you're like,
or
we're burnt out,
or something. It's
retirement,
or somebody retires. Yeah, so I help them. So that's what I've done for
kind of like
years.
a substitute teacher in a way.
Yeah, a long-term substitute, and so you come in and you help them see the light and get back on track. But that's what I do. So I've traveled all over the country. Doing intentional interims. Yeah. And, I come in and I tell them in my interview, I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
But I want you to know that up front. And then about 6 months later, they all come to the conclusion that I'm an asshole. And if I can get them to unite to get rid of me, then I'm building relationships for them.
You might be doing this wrong, Mike. I don't know. I think maybe you should read the manual once more. I'm not sure that's the way it goes.
Maybe I should look at the book again.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been hitting ahead a lot, so I forget things. I forget the approaches.
As Jesus said, must be an asshole first.
Right.
Yeah.
To be a disciple of mine, you must be an asshole.
Yeah. One of the things that I really find interesting about what you do, and this is a story that I would love for you to talk about, is so you have I don't know if it's not a group, but it's just like you add to what you do. Kind of some Eastern ways of thinking, and I will say like martial arts. And
Tai Chi, yoga, stuff like that.
Which is novel, but for me, my understanding of Christianity, I think that's a very cool thing and really lacking in most practices. So how did you get into that, and why do you do it?
Yeah, so I started martial arts, karate. I don't know. I was on the police department, and so I've probably been doing that about 31, 32 years. I think 92 is when I got into martial arts. Mm-hmm. And I had been familiar with it and understood. And even as a younger adult, I read, a lot of other religious sacred texts, and so I'd read the Tao, and I'd read, you know, the Gita, and I'd read some of these other sacred texts, the writings of the Buddha, and it's just, yeah, and when you look at most of them, it's all religion, I think, or most religions we have similar pillars and standpoints, and you just, I kind of see it as, we're all climbing the mountain,
Yeah.
and there's many paths up the mountain, and it's a metaphor that's used a lot, and it's what path do you need to get you up the mountain? And sometimes, I mean, your story is one of them. Sometimes your path, you change paths to get up them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And for a lot of us, that's okay. Yeah, we're trying to get up the mountain, and it's what path kind of speaks to you. So yeah, so I teach Tai Chi, and which has some Taoist influence, and yoga, of course, has Hindu influence.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, but those come in, but I don't think that they are, need to be absolutely separated. I think they influence each other. I mean, we know religions have influenced each other, and and they can be complementary.
Yeah.
And you can I take what works for me from Buddhism or Taoism or Hinduism or any of the religions out there. I take what fits me and my understanding of my religion, and I leave what doesn't.
Well, I always believe that, at least the essence of Christianity was an Eastern religion. It started in, the Middle East. A lot of it has influences of Asia, and
right.
And I just don't think you can really, really, truly understand Christianity without understanding some Eastern religion, because there's definitely some bleeding in, and there's always, there's no real way to prove it, but there's some stories and beliefs that Jesus actually studied with some Hindu masters and Buddhists. Who knows whether
different
he did
teachers,
or not.
and
but it's just like, I feel like that there's a bit of a paranoia that keeps a lot of Christians from getting into that, because they're like, oh, it's gonna somehow steal my way of thinking. It's like it can, there's a way. Actually, in my experience, it enhanced when I was a practicing Christian. It enhanced my Christianity and made it stronger. And I think just understanding the roots of all of that kind of stuff makes it much more valuable and complete.
I do think so. Yeah, I would say that's true, and it allows you to, to sharpen. We think about sharpening the edges of your own belief system when, when you engage others. Now I have to kind of, well, how am I different? How am I the same? And it kind of sharpens your edges. We prior to Ohio, lived in New York City for 7 years, and the school systems there, they get all of the major religion holidays off, and a lot of the schools will take time to explain what is Ramadan, what is Eid, what is Holi, what is and so the kids there, even though they may be predominantly Christian, come to understand their neighbors practice these religions, whether it be Hanukkah, and so it helps us, I think, understand the people who are our neighbors, or who's in our neighborhood, or our city, or I don't know, what's the religious makeup of Atlanta? I don't know, but I'm sure who knows who you encounter at the coffee shop, or on the street, or the grocery, or anything. I think it helps us understand others better when I'm open to at least hearing somebody else's story.
Right. Well, I know that from one of the great things and you and I are pretty much the same age. One of the great things about being this age, I would say great and not so great, but great really, is all of the stuff, so much of the stuff that you grew up believing or you thought was true when you were in your 20s and 30s. When you get into your 60s, you start realizing that things are a little more gray than they are black and white.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're not prepared for that, you can lose your religion if you're a religious person, if you're practicing any religion. When you start finding out that the lines are not as strong as you thought they were when they were young, you could just totally abandon, or you can adapt. And that's what I like about what you're doing and being a little more inclusive. But how is your own experience of spirituality? How is that developed from, like, let's say when you were 20 until now?
Yeah, and I think so. And I think part of it, as we've gotten older, but I think the world is a different place than when we were in our 20s, And and I think I probably was growing up in probably a household that was a little more it's this way or that way, and it's in and out and right and wrong. And as I've gotten older, there's much more gray in the world than right and wrong. It's just, I do workshops on all kinds of things, and if I drew a number, and when I look at it, I draw in chalk between you and I on the sidewalk, and the number as I look at it is a 6, and the number as you look at it is a 9. Well, we're both right, and then I think it's coming to understand the world isn't, and I mean, this takes us in a whole, isn't as binary as we think it is, as we have been led to believe it is. I think, we live in a very, and I know it gets attacked to sexuality with binariness, but I just, light and dark is not even, we have dusk and dawn, which is a mixture of both. And so I am much more of a, things are much more nebulous than what they were when I was, pre-20.
It's kind of a mixture, though. I totally agree with that, and it's been my experience. But I've come to a point now where it's just like, and I don't know where to draw the lines here, but it's just like I think part of the problems with our society is that we've gotten to a point where we just say everybody's kind of right. Everybody's opinion is good. Everybody's opinion is valid. And some opinions are not. Some opinions are
right.
You should say, no, that's wrong. That's evil. That's bad. That's not good. Yeah. So a lot of times I think, even though we could say things are gray, I think there's not a lot of gray in things that are false. So we've kind of, and social media, I think, especially done that. It's kind of like everybody's got their own personal soapbox where they can get their opinions validated, and if you don't validate them, they think there's something wrong. So, and that's because of that. Now we have a society that kind of believes that all their opinions should be validated as being acceptable and right, and in doing that, we have a lot of people who, I don't know, they'll stand up for something that's very unscientific or just completely wrong. And I mean, I'll go ahead and ridicule flat earthers. And I've got a couple in my family, I think, but it's just like, how have we gotten to a point where we say that people could say the earth is flat and still feel good about it, because there are places on the internet where they can be validated with that opinion. And it's like, sometimes you just have to say something is just straight out wrong. It's like,
that's just not right.
That's not true. It's just not true.
It's not true. And and I fully agree with you. And then of course the rub is, what is the line? But some things, I haven't heard a story. I'm pretty sure the algorithm wouldn't have given me a story that someone fell off the edge of the earth if it was flat.
Yes.
Someone would report that, I think, but sometimes I do think there, you just have to sometimes just say, no, that's wrong. No, you can't, you really can't treat people that way, and I can't validate you behaving that way with somebody is right. And I just can't. Yeah.
I think, I lost my train of thought.
We'll find it.
Yeah. Need a metal detector.
Yeah, we'll hop on the next train. That's all right.
you had said something, and I was just like, I was going to follow that, and then it just completely disappeared. And I think that's part of the problem with getting old. No, I was going to say this. For me, I think I would consider if someone came up to me and said, "Are you a Christian?" I would say no. If they come up and said, "Do you believe in God?" I think my reply would be, define God.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that word?
Well, because
right,
I'm not going to say, I wouldn't say no, but I don't know what they mean by God. And the majority of the people who mean God, even atheists will come up and say, "Do you believe in God?" Or "I don't believe in God." But if you kind of talk to them, the God they don't believe in is the white bearded God in the clouds.
Right. Is not the God that I believe in.
Oh,
right. Yeah.
It's like, no, who believes in that? I mean, no, there are some Christians or not just Christians, but I mean, religious people who do believe in it.
Right.
But I feel like that, I would consider myself definitely a spiritual person, definitely a person who's interested in spirituality, definitely somebody who's interested in religion, even though I don't practice a lot of religion. I'm very interested in people who do. I love the search. I love the seeking. I love the people who are on a path, who are on a journey of seeking and trying to become a better person. I get uncomfortable around people who say they found it and who are done.
Yeah.
I found it. I back in my 20s, I figured it all out. I don't know. I feel like that. I'm not saying they don't. Personally, I get a little more uncomfortable with that. But I'm very interested in spirituality, and I'm very interested in seeking. And I still, for me personally, it's just something I do on a regular basis. Yeah. But as I get more into it, the labels disappear, and I don't have as many labels. And I'm really cool with that. Where this is going is, I have a question for you, and that is, what's the most important thing spiritually that needs to be done in the world? Like, let's just chop down labels. Let's get rid of denominations. Let's get rid of this and names and whatever. So, as people and as we all as our communities all kind of blend together, and our religions and our blend together, what's the thing spiritually that is still vital, that still needs to be practiced, that we could still take to our friends and neighbors and family?
Yeah, and I think, excellent question. And
very long one, but still.
No, that's okay. No, that's okay. I do think I think it's present with many of the major religions we have. And that the focus, what I think, and as even from my understanding of Christianity, it is about making the world today, right here and right now, a better place. And it's less about, what the billboards tell you as you drive around, where you're going to spend eternity or all of that, and heaven and hell. I think it's about, me making this world a better place. And I think if we all focused on that, from whatever tradition we come at it from, then the world will become a better place. It has to. And it's one and that happens one conversation, one relationship, one good deed, one thing at a time. And it's just getting people to, it's not, I don't practice, my faith tradition for me to get anywhere in the next life. That's not. It's about, I want this world to be better now, for me to enjoy, and for you to enjoy, and for generations beyond me to enjoy.
Right.
And because if there is a God, I think that's what the God that I know and believe in wants, is for us to enjoy this place to its fullest. And so let's make that happen. I think people say, well, I do think we do have the potential. I think we can do it if we just focus on what the real goal is. And it's not whether I, get a palace of gold or not. It's just, for me, it's about the here and now. And as I read it, the last time I read the book, which may have been a long time, the manual, I think Jesus said that. It's about the here and now. I think all of the great religious leaders have said it's about making the here and now.
Yeah.
better. Yeah.
Well, that's the only time you got.
It's the only time I got. Right. No, I think so.
It's all now.
Why bank on something, else? Let's do it now.
I went through, I had 10 years of atheism, basically my 50s, I guess. And that was very surprising for me in my upbringing, which I was very religious. And it was really kind of a born again experience. I mean, it was the same experience that born again, but it happened as an atheist. And it was the closest thing to a born again experience that I think I ever felt in my life. And I came out on the other side in my 60s, and I didn't intend to get back into spirituality at all. Really, it was kind of like I was forced back into it, called back into it, pulled back into it, whatever you want to call it. And but when I came back into the other side, I had less fear of what's the word? How do I want to say this? I had less fear of things that are spiritual and things that are religious. So when I had my 10 years of atheism, I think there was, I don't know, I wouldn't say there was anger, but I had a lot of feelings of, really, I wasted a lot of time in that. Oh, and if someone had said anything about anything religious or spiritual, I kind of responded with a kind of a strong attitude, I think. And then when I came out of that and kind of came back, I realized I didn't have anything to be afraid of. I wasn't protecting anything, and I wasn't afraid of people who are religious or people who are not religious. Or I kind of had an open mind towards all of it, and I think I'm very fascinated by. That's one of the things I love about Atlanta is I mean, just there's a Hindu temple down the street from me. It's huge. It's gigantic. One of the biggest structures personally I've ever seen. It's amazing looking. And I was like, really? It's just down the street from me here in Atlanta. Yeah. This big, giant white. It looks like a White Castle from a cloud. It's just gigantic. It's
not the hamburger White Castle, but
no.
a real White Castle.
But it's breathtaking. And then there are Muslim temples here and Latter-day Saints, and just everybody's got their buildings. A lot of people, they're wrapped in barbed wire because of the idiots that might want to take them out, who claim to be probably the most religious of all of them. And it's just like that.
Right. And it doesn't make sense. Right.
You start realizing that, I don't know, for me, Jesus was about tolerance. Jesus was about openness. Jesus was about forgiveness. And the people who represent Christianity nowadays, the majority of the people, I would say, a lot of evangelicals are the exact opposite of that. I don't think Jesus would you would probably agree. I don't think Jesus would recognize what's being taught as his spirituality, and it's very far from it. So I don't know. I like unique ways of looking at things, and that's what I like about what you're doing. I think you're shaking some stuff up, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, and I think it's I think it's about, I mean, like what we're trying to do with the movement and stuff. It's realizing, we're these holistic beings, and so I can get to experience things, and mentally, emotionally, socially, spiritually, get to experience everything. And so why not engage? Why should my religion be, not practiced physically in my movement and things like that? Yeah, I think so. I think there's something to be, a created holistic being. Then let's embrace the holisticness of it. I don't know if that's a word. We just made up a word.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and I do think, and we learn, and it's going back to, it's asking each other, the questions when someone, a lot of times I'm big on that, when someone will use a word that's, God, for instance, or, whatever, church, or whatever word we use. And I always ask them, well, what do you mean by that? Because you and I may have very different meanings attached to that same word that we both use. And in doing that, then I get to learn about you. You get to learn about me. We're now in dialogue and we build a relationship. And it's just by asking somebody, what do you mean by that? What, help me, show me, explain to me.
Right.
And then, and then that, like I said, back to sharpens me in my faith when I hear your story. Yeah.
Well, the inquisitive nature of trying to understand people has gradually gone away, and I think that's partially because of this kind of Facebook idea that you just unfriend people when you don't agree with them. Right. And
right.
That's bled over, I think, into society. And I'm not saying I'm immune to that, because I know I have. It's just like, oh, you don't act the way I think you should. Okay, get out of my life. Bye.
Get out of my
cut him out.
Cut you off.
One of the lessons I think that I've learned recently, it just keeps coming back. But as far as like in like a religious thing, I just became really aware of the fact that the temptations that Jesus had that came from the devil were all temptations for Jesus to use spirituality to make himself better or to serve himself.
Yeah.
And though that was, I think a lot of people don't recognize that the temptation to use spirituality for your own purposes is not what it's about. Using spirituality to make like you were saying, to make the world better and to make people better, to help people, to nurse people, to feed people, to make people more comfortable. That is the religion of Jesus, not serving yourself. And nowadays, a lot of people go to church for great meals, for great yoga. Nothing wrong with that. Yoga classes, craft.
A cup of coffee. There's nothing, or just to sit and, we've got people who will come because they're older, they've lost their spouse, their life partner. They just want to talk to somebody, and that's why they come, is to be around with people.
Yeah. Reaching out.
That's cool.
They need help. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But when you get to a point where you're using spirituality to inflate yourself, to make yourself better, it's just like, that's when you might want to look at
look at yourself.
Maybe read the handbook. Yeah. All right. I got some questions for you, man. Let's change it.
Okay. Lightning round. Here we go.
That's right. Let's change the environment. So pardon me, the Out of Tune podcast, the tune part of it. I'm a cartoonist. I've been a cartoonist for years.
Yes, I know.
And
I own Scotty Wallace stuff. Come on.
I still do that. Yes, Scotty's one of them. And others. And so I have a little bit of interest in that as well. So I developed this little quiz. So I'm going to ask you some of your favorite cartoon stuff. And let's see. If you don't have an answer, that's fine. You don't. But what's your favorite comic strip?
Comic strip was Peanuts.
Peanuts. Charles Schultz Peanuts.
Charles Schultz, yep.
That is a classic, all right.
Yeah.
Favorite comic book or graphic novel?
Yeah, I'm a Dark Knight Batman fan.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, they were not the Adam West Batman.
What's your favorite comic strip character?
Yeah, I don't know. How about let's go with Garfield.
Garfield. You're an 80s guy. Yeah. Favorite Saturday morning cartoon?
Well, of course, I come from the Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
But aside from that, because that's the easy one, right?
Can you get any better than that? I mean,
yeah, you can't. But if I'm going to go outside of that universe, I'm going Hong Kong Phooey.
I remember that. Let's go with Asian stereotypes. Yeah. Hong Kong Phooey. I remember that.
In his bathrobe with a mask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. He was a dog. He was a dog. Yeah. All of that, those cartoon things are so full of, I don't know, some of them more offensive stereotypes.
We'd have to be careful putting them up now.
Right. All right. Favorite full-length animated feature.
Lion King.
Good one. All right. Favorite animated TV show. Sorry.
Animated TV show. I was never like Simpsons or anything like that.
Right.
So I'm trying. Animated TV show.
I mean, that could be the Saturday morning too.
Let's go Jetsons, because we're basically living the world of the Jetsons now.
Yeah.
We're like, except for the flying cars, we're pretty much, we got AI, we got robots that do things.
Mm-hmm.
We look at people on, you and I have had a phone call where we looked at each other.
We have. On the big screen on the wall, yeah.
On the wall, yeah.
All right. Do you have a favorite cartoonist?
Yeah, I don't know. Gary Larson. How about that?
Good one. Okay. How about anime?
Not into it.
Me either. I don't know anything about anime.
Yeah,
and
I don't know anything about it.
It's influenced so many young people and young cartoonists and young. It's just a world that I've missed. It's like,
isn't it like Dragon Ball Z and all of that?
Pokemon even. But Pokemon, and I know nothing about it. It's a lot. I feel like it's, in some ways, it's like hip hop, as far as changing and influencing the culture in ways that young people can't ignore, but old people don't know anything about. So most people our age we just don't follow anime and we don't follow hip hop. But that's the world of young people. I mean, it's their world.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Okay.
And we missed the whole boat. Right.
This is a tricky one.
Here we go.
Favorite cartoon character or mascot, like from an ad or like a TV or advertising thing. You know what I'm saying?
Right. What is the Geico Gecko? How about that?
We could do that. He's sort of a cartoon. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, he's not really cartoonish though, is he?
He's somewhat cartoony. You gonna stick with him?
The Hamburglar would come to mind.
Yeah. Yeah. The Hamburglar. All right. And this one might be you got to think on this one.
Okay.
The TV or movie that you would most like to see animated, like an animated version of it.
TV or movie to be animated. Field of Dreams.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
With the baseball players
right.
and corn. And that might be interesting.
Very cool. Yeah.
Kind of Children of a Cornish, but
yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it did kind of give that vibe in the movie, but that's all right.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Cool.
You got anything else you need to talk about? You want to promote anything or
no? I mean,
discuss
just
anything? You got any questions? You got any questions you want to throw out there and we can discuss?
No, we're good. And it's just I'm doing another kilt. I turned 60 here. We were doing the math earlier, and so I'm doing another kilted year in this sub-zero weather, which is fine. And then when I did it the last time 10 years ago, it was the coldest winter in Ohio in 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And now I'm doing it again. People just keep yelling at me to put pants on. I don't understand that.
This is my Bedian birthday year. So I was born in 62 and I'm going to be 62. And so I'm trying to find trying to find something special to do. I don't want to do kilts because I've already done that. But I'm looking for something special. So
you need to animate a full-length movie.
I would. At my age, I'd rather just watch it. I don't want to actually do it. If I could just watch
You need to write that one-man show You need to write a one-man show.
Yeah, that was the thing I kind of had to let go. That sort of bothered me for years. I wanted to do it, and then I was just
I was so waiting for you to do that.
It just didn't. In the end, it didn't really have a point. But yeah, it was just like it kind of died out.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay. Let's tell people how to find your podcast.
Yeah, it's called Taking a Sip. It's on YouTube. You just search Taking a Sip, and you get to see you. You were one of my first guests, actually.
I was one of the first. But you've had several. What are you up to? How many you've had?
I just did number 11. So
Not
it's
bad.
kind of cranking out about one a month is
Yeah.
where it's cranking out at right now. I mean, we're just getting started. And and that's, you just search Taking a Sip on YouTube. You can go to the YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is Earth and Cup Inc. That's kind of my nonprofit that I do my movement stuff. So that's called Earth and Cup Inc. And you can find that at earthandcup.org if you want to check me out there.
And I follow you on Facebook. There's a Facebook group for that too.
Yeah, there is a Facebook group for that as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. All right, man. I'm glad we finally got to do it.
Yeah,
technical problem. We've been talking about it since
we overcame.
Yeah, before Christmas, and we had holidays and just like so many things.
That's right.
And then we almost got
This was
snowed
fun.
out, and then we almost got teched out and all that. But I'm glad we finally did it. Now we're even.
This was fun, brother.
Yeah.
Now we're even. Now I'm going to be your. I can be your go-to guy or something on religious questions. Or
That's
something.
correct. All right, man. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate it, brother.
We'll talk
Peace.
again. All right. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye.
All right, there you go. That's Mike Poole. A fun interview to do. Now you know a little bit about Mike. Hey, thanks for listening into the podcast. Let me remind you, we do have a listener line, 678-348-0008. You can call that line anytime you want to be a part of the show. It'll be like me interviewing you. Also, if you want to be interviewed, if you think you're an interesting person, or you know somebody who is, or you just you have an idea of somebody who you would like to hear interviewed, just send it to me. All right? You can do it through Facebook. You can do it through my email address, rick@outotune.com, and make a suggestion. It always helps. All right? All right. So I will see you on a regular show next Monday. Okay? Yeah, that will be fun. All right. We'll see you then.